Okay, Ben. Austin, Texas, our hometown, has just been invaded by 100,000 tech bros, film fans, music lovers are coming when the music kicks off on Tuesday. It's South by Southwest.
Motorcycles in the background.
South by Southwest 2025. What does Doc Walks have in store for day one?
Well, we're going to meet Adam Bhala Lough, who is a prolific director. He is probably best known for Telemarketers and a film he made about Lil Wayne called The Carter. And he's here with a new film that he's going to tell us all about. And so that's how we're kicking off the fest.
I don't know him very well, do you?
Yes, we actually made a film together about Kid Rock for Rough House, another motorcycle, which is David Gordon Green, Jody Hill, and Danny McBride's company. And we should do a whole episode about that at some point because that movie never came out, will never come out, is somewhat controversial, but that's how I got to know Adam.
Secret, unknown Kid Rock film episode to come.
Yes.
But for today, we're going to take a nice little dock walk around downtown Austin with Adam. He's in town to premiere his new film, Deep Faking Sam Altman.
Yep.
So we're going to go meet him at his hotel.
And we're going to walk around. So here we go. Let's go meet Adam.
Here we go.
On your left.
You're listening to Dock Walks with Ben and Keith.
So we're here at South by 2025. So tell us what you're doing here.
Well, I'm here with a doc feature that I directed called Deep Faking Sam Altman, which not only did I direct it, but somehow I ended up being in front of the camera. So I'm in it for every single frame of the movie, which is really wild because I've never been in any of my movies. I mean, I've been in the background. I've been in like the audio, like you hear me.
But you were also in Telemarketers.
Well,
correct?
Somewhat, a little bit. But this one is this movie is about me in a major way. I mean, what it's about is a dad of two kids trying to figure out how AI is going to affect his children in the future. So he goes out on this journey, and the obvious first step in the journey is to interview Sam Altman. Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, creator of ChatGPT, and he's sort of like the quote unquote like father of AI, modern AI movement, right? So the dad being me, I go to try to interview Altman. He snubs me. So eventually I go to OpenAI directly and get thrown out.
So you're going full Roger and me.
Yeah, it's at this point, the movie's very Roger and me. I basically say it starts out Roger and me and ends like Fitzcarraldo. That's the elevator pitch.
I love
the
that
movie.
I understand the Roger and me reference, but explain the Fitzcarraldo.
Fitzcarraldo comes after I get thrown out of OpenAI. I decide, fuck this shit. I'm going to deep fake him and I'm going to do the interview that way. Because at this point, I also am under contract by the financiers to get an interview with Sam Altman. Because that's the reason they came on board the project and put up the money, was because I told them I could get an interview with Sam Altman because I've interviewed everybody, so why not? So he seemed like an easy one to get, right? And I had his phone number, personal phone number. And, you know, I had pretty direct connections to him. So I figured it would be easy, but it didn't happen. So I was like, okay, well, what if I interview an AI version of Sam Altman? That should count, right, for the contract. So I set out to do that.
Awesome. And did it count? Clearly it did.
It clearly did, yes. Yeah. They loved it. Well, you know, they loved what it became. During the course of making it, obviously, they were like freaked out. They were like, what the fuck is going on? What are you doing? Why are you going to India and spending our money on making...
And how freaked out were you, the person making it?
I was having fun because I knew that every time I failed and fell on my face, that it was going to be good cinema.
Yeah.
And it was going to be funny.
So you kind of knew once Sam Altman said no to the interview request that the movie was going to be about you, or did you conceive of the movie to be about you from the beginning?
In the beginning, yes. To answer your question directly, I knew that making a movie about AI, and I knew of some other movies that were coming out or being made about AI. Specifically, Gibney is doing like a huge series that breaks down the history, and he talks to all the titans, blah, blah, blah. I knew I didn't want to do something like that. So if I was going to do something about AI, it needed to be deeply personal and deeply human. So that was the initial like impetus, like making the movie, to like injecting myself and my family into the movie. I wanted it to be a human movie about AI. So that was the initial impetus.
When you're riding this journey and you're making the decisions about what to do and what not to do as the world is kind of, throwing curveballs, who are you bouncing these ideas off? Do you have a producer or an editor, your wife? Who are you working with?
Christian Vasquez, amazing producer. I stole him from Lance Oppenheim. He was the producer on Ren Fair. And I asked Lance, I was like, I need a young, smart, funny, super talented, on-the-ground producer to do this movie with me. And he ended up being in the movie. Like, I was like, you're in the movie now, dude. Like, you're going to be a character in the movie. So he's sort of like the Robin to my Batman. And he's fantastic. He's producing Lance's new movie right now with Robert Pattinson in New Orleans.
Okay, so you're making this AI doc, and you start out, like, the impetus for it. Like, do you remember the moment that you thought, I want to do this?
Probably goes all the way back to when I was a little kid watching Terminator 2, which was like definitely a life-changing film for me. It's definitely part of why I became a filmmaker.
Yeah, because you started as a narrative filmmaker and then switched to documentary. What was it that made you make the switch?
It was the Lil Wayne documentary with the Carter. I was struggling to get movies made for a long time, but after I made the Carter, it became a lot easier to get documentaries made. So I was like, I'm just gonna do this. Fuck actors. They suck.
Well, unless their companies are producing your films.
Mm-hmm. That's what they're good for.
Well, that's interesting, because one of the things that I admire about you so much is you seem to always have projects in the pipeline. And my experience has not been that documentaries are easy to get made. I find that they're very hard. So how is it that you've been able to, keep this kind of steady stream of docs being produced?
I don't know. I guess a lot of luck and perseverance.
Yeah.
Being at the right place, the right time, convincing the right people,
Because, you seem particularly great at that. Like, just even the story you told us about, being interested in AI and then saying with certainty, I can go interview Sam Altman, to the point that you can get a financier on board without knowing the definitive answer to that question. But saying that you could, like, that's chutzpah.
I think you got to think like that and act like that. I like to say that movie making, even documentary filmmaking, still has a level of like P.T. Barnum. No matter how serious and like social justice-y your project is, you still need a little bit of like P.T. Barnum to get your shit sold. Unless you live in like a communist country in like the Eastern Bloc, you're convincing a bunch of rich people, or some like studio execs.
Yeah.
So you need a level of that in order to get your shit made.
You have this ability, it seems like, to get very close to influential people pretty quickly. Like, how do you do that?
I think it really helps to have certain people vouch for you. That's the number one thing. But also, once you get in the room with people, these are okay. So I'll give you one like really good example, like one little that I think is a great word of advice for filmmakers. I made this whole documentary series about skateboarding for Netflix. They were partnered with a thing called Street League Skateboarding, which was sort of like the NFL or the NBA of professional skateboarding. It's like a league. And they wanted me to do a doc about Street League Skateboarding and about that specific league. And the league was owned and run by Rob Dyrdek. He's one of the most well-known professional skateboarders in history. And he also has like 8 billion shows on MTV.
Right. Okay.
So Rob Dyrdek's a very smart guy. He's also a guy who can see through you in like just in a minute. And he's a guy who everybody comes to try to get money out of. So
before you tell it, so you had to meet with him.
I had to meet with him.
Get his blessing
to get his blessing.
To be the director of the doc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So when I sat down with Rob, first of all, it helped because he'd seen The Carter. He was like, oh, I fucking love that movie. Like, brilliant movie. So the conversation was around, I think, 3 minutes long.
3 minutes?
I had like 3 minutes to pitch him
this
idea.
Okay.
So I pitched him the idea, and he was like, okay, so how much money do you need from me? And I said, I don't need any money from you, nothing. Keep your wallet in your pocket. He's like, well, what do you need from me? I'm like, I don't need anything from you except just access. That's it. And he was kind of like surprised because I think he thought I was going to come in and ask him for $1 million, which is like what everybody does. But I was like, no, I don't need anything from you, dude. Like, I'll go get the money. You just get me the access. So by the time I'd like gotten into the parking lot and was driving off, he like hit up Steve and he was like, let's do this.
So the moral of that story to you is that you knew basically that if you went in there to ask him for something, that would be kind of the end of it. Whereas like you put him at ease.
Everybody all day, these guys that are like kind of like at the top of whatever, top of the food chain, right? All day, every day, all anybody does is come in and ask them to give them something, ask them for money, ask them for something.
Yeah.
I think he was pretty relieved I didn't ask him for any money at all. Rather, I positioned it like I'm giving him an opportunity to be a part of something cool.
If he wants.
If he wants to.
Was that meeting do or die for you?
Yeah, pretty much. That was a very rough patch in my career where I was just like, I had nothing going on. I pretty desperately needed to like get a project going. So we made that film and it did really well. It was during the era of like VOD. There was like a small window of like a few years where like you could put something on iTunes or Apple like iMovie and sell it, right, for like $9.99, and people would actually pay for it and download it.
Wow. And VOD is video on demand.
Yeah, it was pre-streaming, and it sold really well. It was like the #1 documentary in the Apple Store for like 3 weeks.
So you were talking about going into this pitch, it's do or die. You're not asking for money, you're asking for access and kind of like a stamp of approval. How do you prep for a pitch, and what are some differences that you've encountered that kind of some of your signature moves?
Yeah.
How do you prep for a pitch?
How do I prep for a pitch? Hopefully get a good night of sleep, eat a nice breakfast, eat a good breakfast, get caffeinated. But yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is to walk into a pitch like you're presenting an opportunity for somebody.
So you're not asking, you're
not asking for anything. You're basically saying like, hey, we're going along for this ride. This is going to be a cool ride. Like, come along with us. You don't have to if you don't want to, but like, it could be fun. And that's about it.
That's great advice. So you're getting them excited.
Yeah.
Like I remember Jay Duplass told me once, he was like, everybody wants to jump aboard a moving train. Nobody wants to help you get something
No one wants
going.
to push the train up the hill. Yeah.
They want to join the ride.
Yeah, that's what I always said, even from the beginning of my career, was like, you have to go into it at all times with the attitude of like, this train is moving, it's moving very fast, and it's going to move forward without you, whether you're a part of it or not. We're still going to do it anyways. The train's going to keep going.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you on board the train, but if not, like, we're going to keep going. Like, I don't think it's wise to give people all the power either, that like, we need you. We can't do this without you. Like, we desperately need you, because that's also not a good position to be in, right?
Okay, so I want to bring this back around.
Yeah.
We started out by talking about Deep Faking Sam Altman and trying to gain access to Sam. That access was denied, and so you had to pivot. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that moment, the decision-making process for you, and then what that opened up for the film?
Oh yeah, I mean, opened up is a great way to put it. I felt like I had reached a dead end, but the truth was that I just reached a giant open door to something completely different and even more interesting. And there's a moment in the film too where I'm telling Christian, we're walking together in San Francisco, and I'm like, and that moment was when the ScarJo controversy happened, right? Like,
with using her voice.
Using her voice, right? I was like, that day I was like, we should do the same thing to him. We should steal his voice, and we should create an LLM, basically a brain, like a chatbot, loaded in with all his information, all his interviews, everything, and interview that.
Wow.
And the creation of that was, and then deep fake an actor, right? Get an actor.
You have to have an actor actually sit in the chair.
Have an actor sit in the chair. So I interviewed Rainn Wilson for it.
No way.
He said no. Oh, he was like this. He was like, "Wait, you're not even gonna use my face? Fuck you." He was great.
Is that in the film?
It is in the film.
Great.
I interviewed Michael Ian Black and John Cameron Mitchell. And
See, these are great names. So how are you getting these guys? Is it
Those-
through your agent? Is this through Kevin Hart?
so Rainn came through. I think I'm going the wrong way.
That's all right. We're walking. Yeah.
Yeah, Rainn came through Kevin. John Cameron Mitchell is a friend of a friend, and I've known him for a long time. Really sweet guy, awesome guy. And then Michael Ian Black also came through Kevin.
Cool.
And
okay.
obviously, I reached out to a lot of other people who didn't even want to do the audition, but yeah. So we had to deep fake the actor. But here's where the story really opens up, because I just basically described to you the first 20 minutes of the movie. Where the story really opens up is at that point. I'm in San Francisco and I'm trying to find somebody to do this work, like a company to do this work, but no one wants to do it because they're all scared of Sam Altman.
Right.
So I find this guy on the internet in India who's called the Indian Deep Faker, and he has a bunch of viral videos. And it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie. I'm like explaining to him what I want to do and telling him like it's like no one wants to do this in America, and like would he consider, and he's like, yeah, I'm down. Come on, come over to Pushkar, come to India. And so then we're on a plane going to India and trying to figure out how to do that. So it really opens up to like a whole other, and that's the Fitzcarraldo piece where it's like pushing the boat up the mountain, carrying the boat over the mountain, which is like creating this fake Sam Altman,
Right.
this that I call Sambot, creating the Sambot, doing the interview, which is a whole ordeal. In India, we did the interview, but then coming back to the U.S. with Sambot and living with it for like months.
Oh my God, I didn't know this level of
And like
commitment. That's
he
amazing.
becomes like part of my family.
Oh man,
Yeah,
this sounds so. I can't wait to see this movie.
it gets weird.
It sounds.
That's what I like most about it. I think is that it just goes places where you don't expect it to go. It just gets fucking weird.
Well, and I know you have to go because you have another interview. So, last question here, and this is a big one, but we talk a lot in the podcast so far about the future of documentary, right? And you're a very interesting person to ask this question because you've just made a documentary about AI. We're at this pivotal time where people are, watching more TikTok than they are long-form documentaries. They're making like half the amount of TV shows that they've ever made before. Essentially, it feels like our industry is a little bit in peril, and it's because of, in large part, new technology. So as somebody who makes long-form docs and who has just made one about new technology, like where do you see the state of the industry now? Where do you see it going? Like what did you learn from making this film, basically?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question to unpack. I think that I have to say, I guess not so much for documentaries, but documentaries are a part of this. I was really excited and proud of Sean Baker and everything he achieved at the Oscars, because that's great for independent film. A movie that was made for $6 million, that was in the theaters, people went to the theaters to see it. I mean, granted, it was the lowest attendance in theaters of any Best Picture winner, but still.
But it won 5 Oscars.
It won 5 Oscars.
And we're talking about Anora.
Yeah, so I think at least for the time being, that's gonna lift, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I think that will carry over into documentaries. The one thing I'm seeing that goes beyond technology that's actually really disturbing to me is like, you see a movie like No Other Land, and I was with those guys, I hung out with those guys at the Cinema Eye Honors a couple months ago. They just won the Oscar. They couldn't get their film distributed, no one would touch it because it was too hot, right? Like no one would touch it. And that's a little disturbing to me. And that obviously has nothing to do with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the film about the relationship between an Israeli and a Gaza.
It's a film about Gaza. Both the one filmmaker is Palestinian, the other is Israeli. That's quite disturbing, and I hope that we can get past that.
Mm-hmm.
But I am very emboldened by Anora and what happened at the Oscars, and I think that'll be at least for the time being, will be really good for independent films and documentaries that specifically should go to theatrical.
So this is interesting. It sounds like what you're saying.
Theatrical docs. I feel good about the state of affairs, at least for a few years, because of the success of Enora. What Sean was able to do with that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's so. I expected you to go totally the other way. That's really interesting that you have like a rosy, positive view of the future of this after having made an AI documentary. So that's great, because we've heard the opposite argument a lot lately. So I'm glad we're hearing a sort of a positive view, a rosy picture.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it rosy. But I probably wouldn't be talking like this if it hadn't happened at the Oscars, but like it was pretty unprecedented what Sean achieved. And like I'm hearing people in the industry talking like about indie film coming back, but in a real way. You know, you guys make you guys make fictional indie films too. So you know, I think there's going to be more of a place for that, at least in the near future.
When this movie comes out, what do you want people to take away from it?
What I want people to take away from it is, for sure, like, AI is scary, right? There's parts of it that are for sure scary. I think AI is like a toddler, very, very smart toddler that we're raising. You know, we have to be really careful how we raise it. But I think we're going to be okay. I think it's all going to be okay. And
Rosy on Rosy.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that people watch the movie. I think the audience for this movie is basically anybody who has an interest in AI, but also people who are kind of slightly concerned about how it's going to affect their future. And so I hope they see it. And what I took away from it as a filmmaker is that it's just another tool in the toolkit for us. It's not going to take all our jobs. You know, there's a line at the end of the movie which wraps it all back to Terminator 2, where I'm like, the T-1000's not coming for my job anytime soon. Like, that's sort of what I gleaned from the year-long process of making the movie.
Awesome, man. Rosy on Rosy is right. Yeah, I love it.
Disappointed? You guys are.
I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Sounds like you've been getting a lot of negativity in your podcast.
I think people are concerned, people are scared. But here you are. You're on the eve of your premiere. I would hope that you're confident and excited for the future.
Sure. Yeah.
That's where you should be.
Yes, thank you for doing this, man. It was great to reconnect and hang out for a minute.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I'll see you at the premiere tomorrow night.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's fun. Yeah, looking forward to seeing it. It's gonna be exciting.
Cool.
All right,
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
All right, walking out of Adam Bhala Lough's hotel room, and I have to admit, feeling a little bit rosy. I'm glad to know that he sees a path forward and doesn't feel like the AI is going to infringe on all of our rights, our jobs, our ideas. And I have to say, I mean, he's reflecting a feeling that I think I have in my gut as far as it being another tool in the toolbox. And it kind of gets back to that oft repeated quote that I don't know who said it, but I should. AI isn't coming to take your job. The person who knows how to use AI is coming to get your job.
Ah, I like that. So that's a vote to embrace AI and learn it rather than run from it and start wringing your hands.
I think there's enough hand wringing in this world. I'm ready to be rosy.
I like it. Man, I was not expecting that from you or from Adam, and I'm glad that we got more of a dose of like, no, we got to be P.T. Barnum, we got to be showman, we got to
be the T-2000.
We got to be T-2000. And persevere.
Let's hit the corner. Let's leave that there. Let's hit the corner and just take some tone, because we never get enough of that.
It's true.
Oh.
Okay, this is tone for On the Street. Oh boy, right as a party bus is coming.
All right, here we go. I gotta go sign up and get my badge.
All right, let's do it. All right, cutting for now. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Doc Walkers. Next time on Doc Walks with Ben and Keith. There's no Keith. Ben's off to New York City to walk and talk with filmmaker Matt Wolf, director of the new Pee Wee Herman documentary, premiering this week on HBO. Check it out. Doc Walks is Created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at DocWalksPod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.